Magoo, what are you doing? What you doing down there? You being cute kitty? I thought you was helping me water. We're just giving the beans a little bit of water here. This morning. And you're trying to be cute kitty, aren't you? Aren't you? Right there at my feet, aren't you? You're my little garden buddy, aren't you? Oh, well check out, make sure I'm doing it right, okay, Magoo? Is that just right? Am I soaking that ground just perfect? We got a new one coming up right there. Yep. Replant. Oh, so Papa doing it just right, huh? Well, thank you, Magoo. Gotta get her done this morning. Supposed to be almost up to 90 today. Can you believe that? May the 13th. Magoo, Papa can't hold you and water and everything at the same time. We gotta give our plants a little bitty drink. Every morning. Every evening. Because it hasn't rained a drop on this here ground since April the 29th. Yep, we missed that rain that came through most of the Midwest and Southeast on this past Friday. So, it's been what now, 14 days without rain? And that's the way it is here in the deep south. Well, we got another one coming up there. I was out picking slugs last night. Me and Magoo. And Cleo was here too. Picking slugs. Enjoying the evening. Because it's still getting cool in the evenings. But we got to get this morning watering done. Oh, there's another one right there. A new replant popping up. We'll have to put out the beer plates tonight. Entice the slugs to a beer party instead of a bean party like they have been doing. So let's get this bean watering finished. We'll head on to the next task here in our little garden planting area. You know, we don't do much. As most of you know who've been following the channel, it's not like we need a lot. Not right at the moment. And a lot of that's because of the viewers, as well as me being prepared for all this from the very get-go. Oh, there comes the supervisor again. Oh, come on, Magoo. I think I'm doing it right. Don't you think so? You think Papa's doing it right? Huh? I'm watering the ground nice. Just like you said, do. Try not to get it on the plants. Right? So we'll get this done and we'll go on to the next project. Plenty to do here all the time. What do you think, Magoo? Time to give those pots a little bit more water today? Okay. Because you're the boss. I'll do it. Think that'll be enough? We got to make sure we give them plenty of good water. Yeah, I hear you, boss. That's where people go wrong. They just do shallow watering. If you're gonna water, water good and deep. Right, Magoo? Well, I think that'll get them. You gonna come on over here and check me out while I do the raised bed there, Magoo? Yep. Give the carrots some. Radishes, we're just letting them dry. We've got literally hundreds of seed pods. And I'm hoping soon they'll dry. They're taking forever. But with the temperatures going up, we're supposed to be in the 90s. All the way, well, low 90s. All the way through to next Wednesday. So basically next week, things should start drying really well. No rain in the forecast for the next 10 days. Unbelievable. Magoo, did I do okay over there on the garlic chives? You're eating them? I didn't know you like garlic chives. Are they yummy? Oh, you do like them, don't you? Well, that's amazing. Or at least you like licking them. But now we're over here watering what's left in our raised bed herb garden, or what will be eventually nothing but herbs. And of course, right now, as everybody knows, we had a row or two of radishes, carrots, and that. Of course, Magoo here likes playing with the veggies as we go. And of course, he is the supervisor. He watches everything we're doing. He's making sure I water things in deeply instead of getting in a rush and giving everything a shallow watering. Because if you do that, then you wind up with a bunch of shallow roots, and the plant growth will get all stunted, production will go down, and you really won't make the full potential of your plants. So if you're going to water, make sure you put the time in. And it's always good to know the root depth for your different plants. You can actually look that up online. And there are charts that give you how deep the plant's roots will descend into the soil. And if you're going to water, that's the area of the soil that you need to make sure has water. So I put the time in. Now if you're not sure, say water like I am right now these carrots. You water them a few minutes, go let it soak in for about an hour, come back, take your finger, dig down and see how deep the water penetrated. And with these carrots, these are your Danvers 126, and I think there's some Scarlet Natees in there too, which are both a medium-sized carrot. You're going to want that ground to be moist down to 6-7 inches at the very least. And after you've watered and given it, like I say, 30 minutes to an hour to, drain on down, soak in, check your soil moisture down at that depth. And if you're dry, then you're not watering enough. It's just that plain and simple. And that's the one thing I see most people doing on the garden channel. They walk around one of these shower heads and they give everything a little sprinkle and they walk on. Very detrimental to your plants. Of course, you don't got to take my word for it. Or Magoo's, which is playing with my pants at the moment. You can look that up. I know Mr. Google too, or Mrs. Bing, or the DuckDuckGo, or whatever browser you choose. So if I'm going to water, I put the time in. And it's sort of relaxing. Gives you time to think about things, think about people in your lives, situations. It's really an excellent time to talk to God and have a quiet discussion. Or with your kitty supervisor. Or it might be your dog supervisor. But I've always found watering to be such a peaceful activity. Oh, and you might have heard it. Or I think you might have over me running my mouth. My woodpeckers are back. I'm so worried about them. That's a mating pair of red-headed speckled woodpeckers. I believe they're still endangered too. So we're going to give this bed a good thorough watering. Aren't we, Magoo? And then we're going to move on to the tire planters. So when we head on down there, we'll be back. Won't we, Magoo? Am I doing it right, Magoo? You gonna check it out? Magoo, you gonna sit over there underneath the elderberry in the shade, or you gonna do your job? You're supposed to be supervising Papa. Oh, you are? From afar. You think I got it down now? Well, I think I do too after doing this for 58 years. Who knows? Of course, I'd sort of like it to stay sort of overcast. That sun keeps trying to peek out today. But that's okay. Now, some people are going to immediately beat me up. Oh, Mr. Tom, watering your plants and getting them wet when the sun shines will kill them. No. No, if that were the case, every time it rained and the sun came back out, all the crops would die. Have you ever thought about that? I actually did. Of course, now you can go all around the internet, master gardeners and all those people a lot smarter than old Mr. Tom will tell you don't do it, because the droplets will magnify and burn your leaves. Well, in all truth, on some tender crops like some greens and other plants that are very tender, that's true. I have seen little yellowing after the sun hits them. But I already know these radishes, they can take it, because I do it all the time. Now in the evening, this area is shaded, and that's my preferable way to water. Later in the evenings, and with enough time for the leaves to all dry off before it gets dark. Because you really want to try to limit keeping your leaves wet overnight if you can. But here again, this gets back to the point where you got to think, some folks. When it rains at night, like all night long, or some during the night, the leaves are all wet, and somehow magically all the crops don't die. Think about that. But the sun keeps peeking out and going back behind the clouds. It's supposed to be partly cloudy every day now, also till next Wednesday, so I'm not sure how we get in the 90s and still be partly cloudy. Of course, no rain. That's what those weather forecasters say. Of course, they also said last Friday we were going to have heavy rains, and parts of Alabama did. Central to North Alabama did. Down below me, more southern Alabama, down in the Wiregrass did. But here along I-85, not so much. In fact, like I said, we haven't had a drop here in, what, 14 days now, 2 weeks. And I was hoping Friday we'd see some of that rain, but that storm was looking nasty. And I really wasn't wanting to see that front that was coming through all bowed up. But magically, about the time it descended from the northwest and got into Montgomery counties, the edge of Tallapoosa, it's separated. Part of the storm went north, part of it went south, and for what I could see, most of Tallahassee didn't get a drop. So you got to be thankful for some things, because it had been super windy for 2 days prior, and they said there was some really strong straight line winds in that storm. And of course there were some tornadoes reported as well. So I'll take my blessings where I can get them. So we're just getting these all watered in nice for the day. And then we got to go get some planting soil finally made so we can get that bed planted out. Yep, Mr. Tom still ain't got to that. But as most of you know, it's not because I haven't been busy. You can only do one thing at a time. So I'm going to get this finished up and we'll head on to making some dirt. The natural way. First thing we got to do is mix up some of our magic fertilizer that we use. It's basically a nutrient-rich compost and manure tea that I've used for quite some time. And this is something I will say. If you don't have much compost and you can only make a little, which is always best to make your own, by the way, then making compost and manure teas is a good way to use it. Get just as much benefit, in fact probably more. And then when ingredients are spent, you can put them in your pots, your planting areas, and garden areas to get out the last little bit of goodness. So I've been making this for quite some time, and it changes a little bit depending on where I've lived. But basically, I start out with a container. This is a 20-gallon old kitchen garbage can, and I have it, so that's what I use. And I fill it up with water. Then what I do is I put in about 2 tablespoons of chicken manure, composted. Now, it needs to be composted. Now in the past, when I could get it all natural and fresh from a chicken farmer, I got it that way. A lot of times you could get it already composted. Nowadays, if you can find one, they tend to sell it now, and you may have to stack it up and let it compost for a year. And if you're ever so lucky enough to have your own chickens, then you definitely need to be composting your chicken manure and letting it compost down for a year. Make sure you turn it a little bit, and that, or get those worms invited into it. Be throwing in food scraps as well, and you know, other things like grass clippings, leaves. Make you a fine manure compost with worm compost, sort of a combination of the best of 2 worlds. But what I do right now, since I don't make a lot of compost, is I go out, and this is from last year. This is a let's see what it's got. We're gonna get some poo on. It's a Espoma organic chicken manure. You can get this at Tractor Supply, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, most of your big box stores. And all it is chicken manure, and it's got some feathers in it too, because just that's the way it is. And some grains. You know, they scrape it off of the chicken house floors and they stack it up in big stacks, and they let it compost down. And then it's sifted and all that and bagged up. And it's not all that expensive if you want to buy it. I think when I bought this bag last year, or maybe it was 2018 was the last time I bought some, I got 20 pounds for, I think it was $7 something towards the end of the growing season. And that's definitely when you can find the best sales for gardening stuff. So like I say, I put in 2 tablespoons per gallon. So that's 40 tablespoons of this. And then I always put in some of my own compost. Now you'll recognize this. This is my finished compost. It looks just like soil, black soil, that I took from over there in the garden. And that's where I do the layer composting every year. Now why do I throw that in there? Well, that just puts in a lot of bacteria, microbes, fungi. It's sort of like a bread starter. It gets things percolating. So I put in these a couple quarts. And I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. This is just something I do for this size container. And then all of y'all saw me go get the clay, red Alabama clay, for the micronutrients that are locked up in it and slowly decomposing. And I throw a couple scoopfuls in there. And then I stir it all up. And as it sits, the nutrients, microbes, and all that dissolve out of the ingredients, and you mix it up every day, and eventually you got a fine compost tea. Now I don't pour it on the plants. I pour it on the ground around the plants. And you can see who's here helping me checking things out, my supervisor, Magoo. And I pour it on the soil because this feeds the soil as well as feeds the plants. And you can look that up too. If you're feeding your soil and your soil's healthy, the plants will be healthy too. So Magoo says I got to get this done or he's going to come up and get on me. So let's get pouring it in. I'm doing it. I'm doing it, Magoo. I'm doing it, little buddy. Come on. Let's put some of this in there, okay? We'll put in a couple scoops of this. Like I say, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just what I do. And everybody's sort of got their own formula. And as you do this, over time, you can see how the different plants react to it. And that's where keeping that garden journal that I've told y'all to keep comes in so handy. And we'll pour that on in there. Pour another quart of that fine worm compost on in there. Ooh, I mean, you can just see by the graininess the worm castings in there too. And we got that in there. Now I'm gonna have to put the camera down to deal with the chicken poop. Right, Magoo? Am I doing it right? Bless you. Okay. Left in here is what I put in for one more batch. What do you think, Magoo? Because it's sort of nasty. Ooh, yeah. That's nasty. Oh yeah. That'll get your sinuses going. Well, it's coming out about 2 tablespoons per every scoop, ain't it? Good stuff. Whew. But boy, is it good, ain't it? If you would, take that to the garbage for me. You gotta wash the poo off my hands. Woo. Yes, sir. We'll find something. Give that a little stir with me. We'll trim it up a little nicer later, won't we? Bamboo's so handy for everything. Let's just give it a little stir. So as you can see, Magoo's there keeping constant eye on me and that. So like I said, we added a couple of scoops of the clay in there, a couple of quarts of our own compost, courtesy of the worms, and food scraps, garden scraps and all that, grass clippings, leaf clippings, everything that we put on those garden spots, and just let it decompose over the fall, winter, and early spring, as you all have seen in previous videos. And then we put in the chicken poo. Now that got wet, it's pretty nasty, and I started scooping it all in there. And then I sort of eyeballed it and said that was probably going to be just enough. If it had been dry, I'd have continued to scoop, but whoo, it done got wet and was super nasty and stinky. So if you don't like stinky, then this might not suit you, but it suits me. Now you have to understand, this is good for certain things and certain things not. This is going to be higher in nitrogen than in phosphorus and potassium. You know, that P and K. So what's it going to be good for? It's going to be real good for lettuce, any type of greens, green beans, okra, tomatoes. It's worked real well. Cucumbers. Whew. Cucumbers just love the magic poo. And like I say, I don't pour it on the plants. I pour it on the ground, a couple inches off the plants. And what I normally do is I water first, wet the ground really well, down to the depth that it should be, depending on the root depth. And then I add this. I come by my watering can and I put this down sort of as a side dressing right beside the plants, a couple of 2 to 3 inches off of them. Being careful not to splash it, it could possibly burn the leaves. You gotta be careful with chicken poo. Composted chicken manure is less likely to burn than fresh. If you use fresh, you'll burn your plants up. You can take that one to the bank, stick it on the fridge, trust me so. But all this you can look up yourself. And it works great on pepper plants. And over time, I've learned what it works great on. Swiss chard works really great. And it's not that it don't work great on root crops, but that's not what it's best for. With radishes, you got to be real careful putting high nitrogen on radishes, because you get more leaves than you get roots. Same way with beets, turnips, onions. Oh, forgot, onions and garlic, they love this stuff too. But anyway, make up a mix, keep a journal, notice what plants love it, which ones you can't really tell if they do, and you can always adjust your formula to any way you like it. And maybe some of you got a secret formula as well that you'll share with all of us. So now we got to get ready to start sticking in some tomato plants, which means we got to dig some holes. And we'll come back, me and Magoo, once we got a few holes dug. Really don't think y'all want to see us digging holes. It's sort of basic. Oh, that is if I can keep the supervisor up helping. He's tending to lay down a lot on me today. Well, y'all, as you can see, we're over by that little 4 foot by 10 foot bed over by the south timber fence that we cleared off back before all the mess around here started. And we were going to plant with tomatoes and a couple of peppers. And here it is, a week later, and we're just starting to get her done. But it's not magic, and it's not, you got to be real experienced. All we've done here is we dug us a hole. And you can dig it as big as you want. If your soil is real hard and full of clay, you might want to go at least 2 times the diameter of your pot. Maybe 3, especially, you know, it's clay and rock. You can get all that soil out of there and sift through it, get all the rocks out, so tender roots can start forming out. And I like to put mine in pretty deep. And if you don't know it, tomatoes will root all the way up the stem. You see those little fine hairs? Those will actually become roots. Yep, sure will. So I like to dig them in pretty deep. Not only for getting more roots, but the ground stays moisture at that level. Now, you know I've been watering those tire planters every day now since the 30th of April. Sometimes only once, sometimes twice. Most of the times twice a day, depending on the temperature. But look at this native ground. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up. But see, it's still nice and almost muddy at this level. See? Holds nicely together. Where these beds have to be watered daily. That's why I don't promote raised beds this far south. I mean, they're fine if you don't mind watering them. Which, as you'll see as we progress through the summer, how much time watering is going to take up here. But this hole is, if I go down to the bottom, scrape the soil away that I got all sorted down in there, is right at about 7.5 inches deep. And I'm going to take the trowel and just loosen up that bottom little bit some. Get it nice and loose. Right there, make sure I get any big stones out, roots, stuff of that nature. So I can set that tomato plant on in there. But I wanted you to see just how moist that soil was after not raining for 14 days here. So let me get this camera set up, and we'll get this thing ready to go in the ground. Now I am going to be mixing up my plant back soil. This is the mix I'll be using to put under and around those tomato plants, and it's basically a little over 1/3 of my compost that we make here by layering it on the garden plots. It's a little less than 1/3 of that Alabama red clay, and a little less than 1/3 of the native soil that I dig out of the holes. And then I sift through it, try to get all the rocks, big pieces, and I'll mix this all up together. And that's what I'll put a little bit down in the bottom and all around the root ball when I set that plant. Oh, there was a worm. I saw one just cruising through there. He went deep on me. Oh, there he is. See him? Right there. He's sleepy. It's daytime. So I'm gonna get this all mixed up and get the camera set up, and we'll get this tomato stuck in the hole. And after we get one, let's just do the same thing over and over again. It's not rocket science, people. It's not rocket science, folks. It's just gardening. Now, I gotta get this Atkins tomato ready to plant. Now I'm gonna snip off these lower leaves and suckers, because we're gonna be setting that plant deep. And people really worry about doing this because the plants sort of look a little naked, you know, when they're done. But tomato plants aren't bashful like some people are. And I just set it in there. See how that'll do. I think I'm going to take a couple more off there. I think I'll take that one. Didn't quite cut it clean. And take that one, and that one. Yeah, looking a little bit sparse now, ain't it? That's okay. It'll do just fine. Guess what? Either way, you'll be able to see it on the garden walkabouts around here. Now, what we've done, let me show you. See over here? We got our plant and soil all mixed up. The clay, the compost, and the native soil we dug out of the hole. Got all mixed up, sort of, kind of, sorted. And that, I don't worry about screening it. I just get out all the big stuff. So now we're going to start setting this tomato in. I'm just going to take a double handful of that plant and soil, stick it on in that hole. That's all I'm going to do. Rake it around. Then I'm going to gingerly pop that nice looking tomato plant. And you see it was just starting to get root bound. See the roots starting to wrap? You don't want that. So we've always done this. We break that apart a little bit. See? Trust me folks, ain't gonna hurt a thing. And now we're gonna set this baby right down in that hole. Straight in the center. Don't worry, I'll bring you back. Now I gotta get some of that plant mixture, put around it, and get this thing tucked in. Because I do got a few more to go, you know. We got it right in the center of that hole. And we're just gonna get it all nice and tucked in for the night. And I prefer planting, especially transplants, in the late afternoon when the sun dips down below those trees. That way, don't stress out my plants. I got all night to try to start recovering. Always seemed to work good for me. Some people like to get out and get her done in the morning. I just give it a little firm. That's something you too want to do, is you're going to want to leave a little water well around each plant. Now if you get adequate rainfall, an inch or two a week or more, maybe, the water well won't be necessary. But here in the deep south, it's necessary. Trust me. Don't got to be real deep. Just enough so the water pools in there when you water it. And there we are. Okay, there we have it. Got it all in there. And that looking fine. Let me show you where we're at. Like I say, it's not rocket science. And there it is. One Atkins Sun tomato stuck in the ground. And that we pruned the tomato up so we could set it deep, so it'll root all along the main stem. We backfilled with our planting mixture of a little over a third compost, less than a third red Alabama clay, and less than a third of the native soil we took out of this hole. And it don't got to be exact, it'll be okay. And like I say, if you've got extra hard dirt or soil where you're planting, you might want to make your hole a lot bigger. But this soil here is like most of the soil now on my little place in heaven here. It's pretty much sandy loam, and when you get down a little deeper it goes from sandy loam to some gravelly clay mixture, like I showed you when we were planting the potatoes. You get down around 8 to 10 inches, you start hitting that clay and gravel layer, the subsoil. So the only thing we got to do next is I like to give them a little bit of water. And I like to do that with my watering can, because I like to mix up a little bit of fish. So let me go get that. Sort of gives them a boost, and I'll mix some up and we'll water this one in. Now, like I said, I got to water this little old plant in, and I like to do it as I plant each one instead of waiting. And something I might add too, I always water my transplants an hour or 2 or 3 before I transplant them, so the root ball's nice and moist. Some people don't. Some people like to do it dry. I don't. The ones who like to do it dry like to do it because they say they come out of the pots easier. I've never really had an issue with that, but that's personal preference. So I went up and got my watering can. This is a 2-gallon watering can. You can get these anywhere. And went and got my jug of Alaska fish fertilizer. Now, I've been using this stuff since late 70s. So did my daddy and granddaddy. Probably used it before that. This is some mighty fine stuff. And in one video I actually told you where my granddaddy and daddy used to make their own when we had a source of fish scraps. And you can do that, but it actually smells worse than this does. But as you can see, this is a 5-1-1, and that's a 5 nitrogen, and that. Then you got your phosphate is 1, and your potash is another one. You know, it's that phosphorus and potassium. But I always like to give the soil a good drench of this after I plant. Always has worked well. I used it when I was commercial farming too. So I've been using it a long time. And I buy it by the gallons. You can get it in 5 gallons, or you can get it in totes if you want to spend that much money all at one time. And later on, as these plants get larger, I actually use this as a foliar spray. I mix it up a teaspoon per gallon in my sprayer, and I spray it right directly on the plants. In the late afternoons, when the plants go in the shade, allowing enough time for the leaves to dry off, ooh boy, that gives them a boost. You can look up foliar spraying and see the benefits of it for yourself, whether you're using fish or some other type of fertilizer like chicken poo, compost and clay. Liquid fertilizer I got cooking up there in the old garbage can. But you might wonder why I didn't use it. Well, it won't be ready for about 5 to 7 days. You got to let it steep some, okay? All good things take time. So I'll put a tablespoon of this in per gallon. So that's 2 tablespoons in there. Fill it up with water, and I'll get this tomato watered in. We'll call this one done. And then I think we only got, what, 4 more to go? It takes longer to do these videos than it would if I just stuck them in the ground and ran my mouth and told you. But I like showing you how I do it. I'm sure you have your own way, and I'm sure you'll share that in the comments below the video. Ooh, this smells. Oh my, all good stuff for the garden. Seems to smell. I sort of got used to the smell. And there we go. Get it put up and get her mixed up. Give it a nice watering. And here's where that water well comes in so handy. It just traps the water right there around that little plant. Holds it there so it's got time to soak in. And you know what? It'll do that every time I water and every time it rains, directing the bulk of the water right there where the plant needs it. I always leave a water well an inch or two deep, and it's soaking in rather fast, ain't it? Even though that ground was quite moist, it's still thirsty. But you can see it's starting to slow down. So I'll probably hit it another time or two till it takes quite some time to soak on in. And I'll call this one done. And all we're going to do, folks, is we're going to repeat this same process 4 more times. That's what we're going to do. And you'll see the finished product, not today on the video, but on the next walkabout we do on the next video. So you just have to be patient. So now, I need a drink of cool water, and we'll chat some on the porch. Maybe Magoo's up there taking a break. Cleo was down earlier checking this out. Of course, I don't think the camera's going at the time. Oh, we almost forgot our little tag. Can't forget that. Of course, I'm not growing that many varieties this year, just 3. I think even old Mr. Tom can remember them all. Now that's an Atkinson heirloom tomato. Indeterminate, by the way. Specially bred for the hot and humid climates of the deep south. So hey, let's all run in and get us some nice cold water, sit on the porch and take a break. See you there. Well, we made it up to the front porch, and guess who's here? It's Elrod. Yep, he came by to visit today, didn't you, Elrod? Yeah, you're a good kitty. He was actually here last night. He arrived on the scene to get his dinner, but the video had already been uploaded for today. He was quite disappointed, but he sat with me a while. But he's back today, and he'll be with us a while. If we still got to get the rest of the tomatoes in once we finish chat. Right, Elrod? Just a love bundle, ain't you? You Papa's guy? Yep. Come on. You could do that all day long, couldn't you? And there's the Magoo. Of course, he's gonna get jealous, aren't you, Magoo? Hey, you were doing all the work, Magoo. You should get all the loving. I hear you, guy. But looky there. Elrod's your buddy, too. Y'all big buddies. Oh, you gotta come stake your claim. I love y'all. But let me talk to the folks, because then I gotta finish my break and get out there and get the rest of them tomatoes in, okay? So there you have it. We got a few things done today. Of course, y'all only see a small portion of it here. That's all I got time to video. And we took you with us while we were doing the morning watering. We showed you how we make our compost manure tea and our planting soil, which is very basic, but don't cost us nothing. We got the clay, red clay for free. Compost we made was free. Native dirt was free. Well, I paid for it over the course of 10 years. But now, other than property taxes, it's free. The compost manure tea, well, yeah, I bought that 20-pound bag of chicken manure back 2 years ago. And that was the last of it, but that didn't cost much. It's less than $8. And like I say, if you've got a chicken farm near you or got your own chickens, then it's a byproduct. It's not really free because you got to feed the chickens, had to pay for chickens, but it's a useful and almost free byproduct. Or go to a chicken farm and get you some. Just make sure it's composted, or compost it yourself, or it will burn and kill your plants. Take my word for it. And we showed you how we plant tomatoes. There's all kinds of ways. Some people dig a trench and let them grow real leggy and then lay them down in the trench. I've tried that method down here in the deep south. But with extreme heat and drought, that method doesn't work well. That's why I dig down deep. In fact, at times, I dig even deeper than what I did. That was right around 8 inches. But it was getting long in the day, and the old man was getting tired, and that was deep enough. It was nice and moist down there. And it been 14 days without rain, so I figured good enough. Now, if it'd been dry, I'd have probably kept digging, even if I had to dig down to China. Because that's the whole point. Get down where the native soil is nice and moist to help sustain those plants during drought. Because I believe again this year, here in my little place of heaven, we're going to see extreme drought again this year. We've seen it for the last several years. It's not looking like this year's going to be any different. So, I got to get finished up getting those tomatoes in the ground. I'll probably do the peppers tomorrow, and you'll see them progress as we do our walkabouts and our talkabouts, as we always do. And maybe you'll look into getting you some fish fertilizer too. That's some very good stuff. Whether you get Alaska, Neptune, you know, some people like seaweed. I've used it, but I keep going back to fish. And when I do fish, I save my heads and my guts and my other trimmings, and I throw them in that same garbage pail, just add water. Then I take aluminum foil, which I'll be doing too before I call it a night, and I cover up the top of that garbage can to keep smells in. Because it's going to start to smell, especially once you start throwing fish heads and trimmings and guts in there. Of course, you can throw kitchen scraps in there. You can throw weeds in there. Some people like to make a compost tea from comfrey and other vegetation. Of course, that's going to be higher in nitrogen than what I had. So, hopefully y'all learned something today. Maybe y'all share the way you do it. That's what I truly think is such a huge blessing with this channel. I show you my way, and I've done it many different ways, and y'all will add your ways in the discussion below the video. And then those of you, and I know a lot of you read all the way down to the comments too and add your little pieces and get started in discussions. That's what makes the channel great. It's just not me, Trixie, and the kitty crew. It's each and every one of you out there too. So remember, let's pray for the community, those with special needs. We got one that I would definitely like to point out, and I hope you don't mind, and that's Leslie Abner. You'll see he comments quite a bit down below the videos, and he's from Texas. And he's been having some problems that could possibly be cancer. I've been praying for him, and I know him and his wife have been praying for him and his family, and I hope y'all pray for him too, that our Father will rid him of that heinous disease. Pray for the essential workers of all types, sizes, shapes, and forms. Pray for those who must work. Pray for the world that soon this virus is scourged from this land. Until we see you on the next video, y'all take care. Stay safe out there. And may God bless each and every one of you, your families, your loved ones. Till next we speak. Bye for now. Magoo, what do you say? You want to go help me stick in the rest of those tomatoes? Elrod, you want to come help me? Elrod. Kitty, kitty, kitty. You want to come help me? Oh, look who's coming to help Papa. It's the Cleo. Yep, she's going to come help. Elrod, Cleo's going to help. You want to help Papa too? If we all chip in, we'll have this done in no time. Won't even take us an hour. Come on. Cleo's ready. Look at her. She's on it. She's ready to go. I think she's looking for her gloves now. Okay, Elrod. I'm sure you'll follow us over there. Well, maybe not. Later, all.